Love it.
Yes.
Okay, we should be.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I think we made it.
It's thinking about it. I don't
Oh,
know what's up with.
it says we're live. I think you should just trust me when I say we're live.
You know,
we got the notification.
That keeps me in less hot water if I do.
Yeah, you just listen to me.
All right. So, welcome to the one person who's watching so far. No, wait, there's 4 people.
I bet one of them's Mark Clark.
No, not yet. Okay. Mark joins like halfway through the show. So he's like, wait, what time is it? I can get a beer. So anyway, welcome everybody. I'm Councilman Dave DeMott and my wife, who's a candidate for House District 29, Vanessa DeMott. And tonight we have special guest, County Commissioner Steve O'Dorisio joining us. So thank you, Steve, for joining us. So the first thing that we always do is we need to know what everybody's drinking, since that's, kind of the thing. So I'll actually let the guests go first. Steve, what did you bring with you?
I actually have a Pilsner. So
nice.
You can't see that, can you? Because of the way. Oh, it's because I have a green screen. Rockyard Brewer. It's green. Rockyard Brewing Company. It was in. I'm on keto, so I can't have a whole lot of beer.
Oh, see, that's me too. That's the same thing.
So but I did find a Pilsner. I had some other local stuff, and my brother-in-law took it last week out of my fridge and brought it to his house.
That happens. I see. Actually, I lied. Mark Clark is already on. Hi, Mark. Vanessa, what do you got?
Well, you know what? In your honor, this is so have you tried this? Because you just said low carb. So we're on keto. Ooh, was that like a virtual cheers? That almost worked.
That's right.
Was that, I don't know if we can do it. So this is Oscar Blues. Before we got started, we talked about Oscar Blues. So this is Wild Basin called Boozy Sparkling Water Blueberry Mango. And this is 1 carb and no sugars. So it's a hard seltzer and there's 4 of them. Sorry, 4 of them. I haven't had any tonight, I promise. And they're pretty damn good. So this is where we've gravitated towards. We're trying to behave ourselves. Kind of. Dave, what are you drinking? Are you behaving?
I'm drinking whiskey and diet ice. So I am. It's totally.
That's great. I only got the Pilsner because it's Pilsner, Policy and Pilsner. I've been drinking a lot of that seltzer stuff. Like you're drinking.
When we do these at the different breweries, I'm always the guy with the Diet Coke, and everybody's like, "What the heck?" I'm like, "I'm trying to not be fat." So it's a struggle. It's a real thing. I have to say that former Mayor Pro Tem Garcia just said to let the commissioner know, go Buffs. So he had to get that in there. You two and your
it starts. It's good fun. It's good, clean fun, folks. It's a family show. It's a family show.
I know that Mark Clark likes this. Like anybody who's in Rotary, that's like a big thing. Like college sports is huge in Rotary. So when I joined Rotary, I went to Westwood College, which isn't even a thing anymore because they closed it. But that's where I graduated from. I'm like, yeah, we didn't have sports. I think the only sport they had in IT school was who could go out and smoke the most cigarettes at the break. Like, and the teacher was the leader of the pack. Like, hey, it's been a half an hour since we smoked. Let's go outside. I wonder what happened to that guy. He's like an old drill sergeant. His name's Chuck E. Pease. He'd scream at us all the time. It was great.
You didn't have Office Olympics?
No, nothing. It wasn't. I was night college. It was mostly working adults, so it wasn't that exciting.
Yeah.
But it got me a degree, and it got me the career I have. So
it made him the man you see before you today.
That's right.
The joke. So you're a native, right, Steve?
I am. So
the joke always was, because Westwood was Denver Institute of Technology. So at any time I told anybody that's where I went to school, they'd have to sing you the 650-50-50 jingle. Because if that was I'm like, yep, haven't heard that before. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
So, to kind of break into actually, some interesting stuff, since we have you here, Mr. Commissioner.
Sure.
Maybe you could tell us kind of what's going on, and obviously lots of stuff, everything COVID. I'm sure people are kind of sick of hearing it, but yet, you're really at the county level very much in the thick of it. And I know you and I had talked about this before, like kind of, maybe sharing like what that's been like, as as a commissioner, and actually maybe even let's back up a little bit, because we talked about too, like kind of maybe giving some background for people who don't know how you got into government, and like, you know, how you ended up a county commissioner. I know, like for me, it's been like city council, all the things we're dealing with right now are things I never would have imagined dealing with, and I can't even imagine at your level. So maybe, you know, kind of give everybody a little bit 5-minute, like how you got into government, and then
Sure.
you could go into, you know, what you've been seeing for the last couple months.
Sure. No, I'm happy to. My family's been here for over 100 years. We're part of those North Denver Italians that go way back. My great grandfather was a logger up in the mountains up in Gilpin County. And so, you know, a lot of that migration from North Denver up into Jefferson County, I actually grew up in Arvada. I went to Pomona High School. Some people don't know that. Because I'm so rah about Adams County, and I do love this place. People think I grew up here, and I actually grew up just a few miles to the west. Went to Pomona High School, got out, went to Colorado State University, and which it was a choice, and it was the right choice. I know Alberto might be watching, so thank you, Alberto. But I enjoyed going down and looking at the hippies down at CU too every once in a while, seeing people like Alberto. And it was great. Then we went back up to Fort Fun, and it was a great experience. But I graduated with a journalism degree, but was involved in a few things like student government, and I kind of had a self-reflection, recognized I think business was the most important thing that I needed to learn more about. And so I had the opportunity to go work at Anderson Consulting for after CSU. And I did that for 9 years. And that's where I learned about business, IT, management, and you know, and that was just the best experience ever. So I did that for 9 years. The last 4 years of that, I went to law school at night at DU, Sturm College of Law. I was very fortunate that Anderson Consulting then changed their name to Accenture during that time, but they were able to say, hey, as long as you want to stay employed and you're not going to ask for any raises or any favors, we'll let you stay employed, and we'll try to get you out by 5 or 6 at night so you can make it to school. And so we did that. We did it for 4 years. It was challenging because that's also when we had both of our kids. And we built our house out here in Welby during that time. So it was a little stressful during those 4 years. Got out and went and worked as a business attorney at Holland & Hart, which is a big law firm. And after a couple of years of that, I started getting more involved in the local, you know, the local business around here, meaning just getting involved in community. And I was sitting on the planning commission. And I was seeing some things that I was not happy about, but I was also seeing things that made me just gravitate that much more to Adams County. But then Don Quick, who was the DA at the time, says to me, you've got a passion for public service, and he saw that. And as long as you're willing to cut your pay in half, come work with me and enjoy your life a little bit more. Now, it wasn't that Holland Hart was bad. It was just after those 4 intense years, and then being at a new firm as a new associate at the big firm for a couple of years, he was able to talk me into coming over, and it was a great move. And I served as a prosecutor for almost 5 years at the DA's office in Adams County. And just like every prosecutor, you start out doing the small domestic violence and DUIs, and by the end, I had two murder cases that I participated in. And so you learn a lot during that time. So my background really is mostly business, and then some public safety for 5 years as a prosecutor. And I live right now in Welby, which is right where I-25 meets I-76, basically. And it's unincorporated Adams County. So when I in 2014 decided to run for office, and I think I won by 600 votes. It was a very Republican year that year, and I was the only new Adams County Democrat to win that year. But you know, this pendulum you see keeps swinging high.
I think that's how, when I first met you. I remember meeting you. I was at the Grange at a candidate forum. That was the year after the first time I ran. So I remember meeting you at the Grange when you were running for commissioner.
Yeah. And I think it might have been Dino Valenti that introduced us.
Yep. more than likely.
Yeah. I'm going to change my background because it makes it look like I'm all whitewashed here. Like, oh,
Like an alien.
no. How's that? Well, that's not much better, is it? Well, I'll just do none. That's my green screen in the background. We have some fun with, and I teach a class over at Regis for business law, and so
Oh, nice.
having the background and making it look a little bit better is good. I'm gonna go shut my blind. That's what's going on.
Technical difficulties.
You get everything, it's live TV. You can't,
There we go. How's that?
Nice,
you got to work
nice.
with it.
You don't look like you have quite the same glow.
No, I think it's better. I'm gonna go back to my other one. Okay, back to, so that's how I got to where I am as a county commissioner, is basically that story.
And you're in your second term now, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am. So 2018, we ran for re-election, and the pendulum swung the other way, and I'm not sure any Republicans won anywhere. So you see this pendulum swinging back and forth. We'll see how it goes for the next couple of years. But I think what I like about our positions is that it's local government, and I really enjoy local government more.
Yeah.
You might be one of the first local government people I've heard really say that, especially in this time. I really applaud you guys, because as we were talking last night and on most of our policy in Pilsner, that all government is essentially local, but it's our counselors, our commissioners, our school board. These are people who make those decisions that seriously affect our lives every day. So you really take the brunt of it. You see people, we appreciate our congressmen and our senators, but we really see our level of government there every day. So
yeah. Thank you. Well, and thank you, and thanks to Dave and the team. I mean, that's what you guys know, how hard it is, and in local government, you make decisions. It's not, you're making decisions that affect people without a doubt.
You're going to hear about it one way or the other.
That's right. That's right.
So you'll be applauded by some, and I think the mob and pitchforks might be behind somewhere. Yeah. So there's, it is weighing those decisions. So we have a lot to learn from, I think all those people who built those then come before us. So.
And you can't make everybody happy, and you got to realize no matter what your decision is, somebody's gonna be upset about it. That's just like, I can't think of a decision that somebody hasn't been like, yeah, I don't agree with you about that. Like, it's just the way it is. I mean, it's like you were saying, the pendulum of power swings both ways, and it does that because we have so many different mindsets in this country, and I think that's healthy, but it's interesting. So, I mean, fast forward from that stuff. So, like, I remember the first time we really were seriously having a conversation about COVID in Westminster, and it was kind of half serious. The mayor and city manager had taken a trip, and we started hearing more and more about cases in the country and then in the state. And I remember they had just taken a trip, and I remember somebody on staff wasn't feeling well, and they were like, oh yeah, hope you don't have that thing. And then, within 2 weeks, it was like, hey, we're not having meetings at City Hall anymore. And that, I haven't been inside City Hall for, 2 months. So over 2 months at this point, I believe. So yeah. I don't know, like, what's that been like at the county level, especially since you guys are, health departments at your level. So you got a little bit different interaction than we do.
Yeah, it's, so the health department we have, is Tri-County Health. So we have a kind of a coalition with Douglas and Arapahoe. But it's I think it's very similar to what you probably went through, that kind of just the surreal feeling that you get knowing that you can't go into the office that you've been able to go into. I mean, I haven't even touched my laptop because I left it in there, and then so I don't have my work laptop right now. And so I'm using, my own personal stuff, but most of it's online anyway. But yeah, it's been definitely one of those experiences that you didn't anticipate, and but you got to be prepared for. I mean, yeah. Whether it was a tornado, floods, whatever, everyone in local government has to be ready for the unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or try to be. I mean, you're never fully ready, but you want to be able to respond, and hopefully you've built up enough capacity in different portions of your community that you can weather the storm, whatever that storm is.
So I think people, all of us have kind of at nauseum just heard about like the stay at home and stay safer, and now we're starting to kind of move into the new phases of safer at home. How do you see that going? Like, what how is that affecting the county? And I mean, obviously there's a lot of questions from the business community,
Yeah.
which is very important. And prior to this, Adams County's been pretty booming. Like, the growth that we've seen in Adams County over the last 5 years has been pretty amazing. So what has that all kind of been looking like, and what do you see for the next couple months, or what do you envision or hope for the next couple months in Adams County?
Well, first of all, one of the things that we did is we established response and recovery teams, 7 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the county manager was able to put us, the different commissioners, into the different response recovery teams. He asked us what we're interested in, and a lot of it you just kind of know what everyone's really passionate about. The response and recovery teams, let me read them off to you, because there are 7 of them. We've got aging adults, and that's the one that I am the champion of. And it's one of our most vulnerable populations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I went through some challenges. My mom passed away last August from Alzheimer's, but through that experience, for the 2 to 3 years leading up to that, I was able to. We had almost every experience of different types of facilities, and so I was proud to be able to step into that role on that response and recovery team. The others include, the second one is as business support. I'm helping Mary Hodge on that one, and we could talk about that because it is important one also. Third is child care. The fourth is food security and basic essentials. Fifth is housing stability. Sixth is support for the unemployed and future workforce, and 7 is the uninsured and healthcare access.
Okay.
And you can find these at adamscountycovid19.org. And I think I can toss that out there if you guys want.
So, I have, as you say, some of those areas of focus, and you talk about things like food insecurity, what partnerships do you have out in the community that you're able to really lean on, so nobody's really duplicating those efforts? Specifically, I was a student at Front Range, and I know we had a great food pantry program. So a lot of students that depended on that, and Front Range had those partnerships to bring in. Is that something you see, that, first, where there's a concentration of people who are in need, and, where there's somebody who had resources they were using?
Yeah, and we have partnered with, it used to be Adams County Youth Initiative, which is now Rocky Mountain Cradle to Career. And what they do is they use this collective impact approach. And a lot of people don't know that that's an actual methodology that really pulls together the different folks that are impacted by a particular issue. And so by using this methodology of really saying, okay, who are the partners out there? What assets do we have? Let's identify what we have. Try to identify also outcomes that we want to see in our efforts. They take those really those approaches, and we were able to try to reduce duplication and redundancy and really maximize the collective impact and stuff. So like when it comes to the aging adults, and we're also using data, our goal is to identify for the last 3 years the number of folks that are older adults over the age of 60, 65, and we break it out into different ages, but that are expected to pass naturally without COVID, and be as close to that as possible. When it comes to the businesses, we've got the data to say how many businesses do we anticipate without COVID, and how close can we try to be with some of those economic and those business things, those business data points. And that's what we're really working toward. And when it comes to food security, the same sort of thing. So your question about how do we make sure that we're not duplicating, it's going to happen anyway. But what we try to do is say, oh, if you're doing this and I'm doing this, then you focus on that side of the block and I'll focus on this side of the block. Or we're able to say, oh, you need bread, I've got extra bread, do you have any meat? And they're able to work together.
Okay. No, those are amazing efforts. And I think it's those same focuses that both sides, and we talk about this a lot, you have to be able to work across that spectrum, and both sides can agree they don't want to see their neighbors go hungry. They don't want to see and wish ill upon their neighbors. So
That's
all
right.
we want to see is that partnerships, and there's people willing to do it in the community and, to find it from there. That's inspiring.
Yeah.
It-
So it's a great methodology, and really Google collective impact and try to see it. It really does pull folks together. It's different than collaboration. It's just, but it's working.
I I was able to throw the link that you put up in the chat. I put it up on the page, so if anybody wants to check it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think like I appreciate the fact that you work with the senior population. I saw some of the posts that you had out today about some of the stuff with Senior Hub that you were working on. I don't know if you knew, for a couple 2-3 years I was on the board of directors for the Senior Resource Center. So that it's a great organization. And I always since I've been on council with all the different nonprofits between Vanessa and I, that we've been on different boards, Fralston House, Senior Resource, and some other groups that we've worked with. I'm always looking for because I think everybody gets into government to do good. And so it's always oh, how can we help this niche? And I'm always the first one to be well, who's already doing it? Who could we just support with efforts or dollars that's already doing this work? Because there's so many great organizations in Colorado, that are all, frankly, they're nonprofits and they're fighting for dollars to survive, especially right now. So I'd rather see which one's doing a really good job of it and really has the actual services together that we can get behind. And I always encourage people to do that kind of thing, your senior hubs and all that, different groups. I think that's the way I always try to approach it. But so I appreciate the work that you're doing in there. So to maybe move into with the Commissioner Hodge, what are you guys working on in the business area?
So we've got a lot of, so some of this, we've identified different strategies. And so what I'll do is I'll pull up something to show you kind of what we're doing, if I can get it to pop up real quick. But we've each of these different response and recovery groups is identified as we pull together some of what are the needs and where do we want to be, where we are now, and how do you get to where you want to be. And so part of what some of the stuff that we've done is pull together in their response and recovery team, pull together some, in addition to what you're just meeting. It's not collabo babble. You want to be able to meet with folks. And so let me see if I can pull up and I'll show you some of the things that we did, because we just did we just had a town hall to discuss some of the things that we're working on, and particularly with the businesses. And so I'll pull up let me download this real quick and I'll show it to you. But the bottom line is we're pulling together identifying a lot of the external resources, and that includes some of the federal stuff and the state stuff. And then there's some other private resources for businesses. And then the question is, what should the county provide that's separate from those external resources? And a lot of what we identified, we're trying to find different resources that maybe kind of help fill in the gaps or help bridge something. So there's a lot of great loans at the federal level, but what we found is that people maybe needed the money faster. And then we're trying to do some loans and some grants. And so if you can, I'll show you, kind of walk through. Is that all right?
Yep. If you want to try to share your screen, that should
it
work.
says disabled. Do you want to try to, I think you might need to let me participate screen sharing.
Try it now.
All right. Okay, so
There we go.
So this is I think if you can see that, I'll show it to you. I did this we did this presentation recently, but one of the things that we were able to explain are some of the different, we've got the Board of County Commissioners, and these are all 5: Emma Pinter, Mary Hodge, Chaz Tedesco, Eva Henry, and then our leader, you guys might know, Ray Gonzalez.
Yep.
And Ryan Nolte is our new Deputy Director for Community and Economic Development. And these are the 7 different response and recovery teams that we have that we're working on. And the one that you're asking about, and the one I'm going to go into a little more detail on, is the business support. One of the things that we've found is that we had to we're pulling together what's called an operations mini grant, and that's going to roll out in the next week or two, which means that businesses can get up to $2,500 to help with some sort of operational improvement in their in what they're working on. And so that would include things like if they need help paying for like a sneeze guard or something along those lines, if they need help putting in some more equipment. And it's for small businesses 1 to 25. Another one that we have is the technology grant. That would be for up to $1,000 a person, and it would not per person, per business, I should say. And that would be for helping like certain businesses if they need help with upgrading their website. Maybe they're moving to contactless pay systems, so you don't have to touch. And I mean, it's kind of interesting. You go to a store, and it is interesting when they say, "Well, hand me your card," or "Will you sign now?" And you're like, "We're not supposed to touch stuff." And so we're hoping that this might help with some of the technology improvements that people need. Next is the relief loan. And this is a 3.5% interest rate. It's not going to be as good as some of the federal loans as far as the rate goes, but this is to fill in where they need something quicker or they didn't get the federal loan. And you know that a lot of people have had a difficult time getting some of their federal resources. And then we've got the stabilization grant program, which is an actual grant, not a loan. And this is using CDBG dollars, meaning community development block grants. And so the goal here is, in a way, it's really not to benefit the business. It's to benefit the employees if they're low to median, moderate income. And so that's what this is designed, is to try to see if you can encourage businesses to keep people a little longer, particularly benefiting some of those employees. And then now we've got the ADCO to Go campaign, and this is really trying to highlight, and a lot of the local chambers are doing this as well, highlighting those restaurants for takeout, delivery, those ones who are trying to stay open. And you're going to see us moving, I think, also toward another kind of campaign beyond just food, where we're going to be able to really highlight some of the other businesses. And so these are some of the things that we're working on, and that was it. So let me see if I can. So those are some of the things some of the strategies that have come out of that particular group, in addition to just general, and those all came from meeting with businesses who are telling us the kind of things that they need help with.
Yeah, and I this last week in Westminster, so I imagine this is happening with other partners of Adams County, and so we passed some funding to help fund for a position that's actually going to do some different things as in partnership with the governments inside of Adams County and working with businesses, I believe. So a lot of stuff going on, and I mean the relationships obviously between the city and the counties is really good. Westminster is interesting because we're in 2 counties,
Right.
Jeffco and Adams. So it's good that I think that we enjoy a good relationship with the commissioners on both sides of Sheridan.
Yeah, I think that is important, and you guys do a good job. And Westminster is a very well-run city.
Well, I think, Steve, when you were talking about all of these businesses and being able to collaborate, or sorry, your term again, collective
impact.
It'll stick.
Yeah.
So bringing in all these businesses, and Adams County, just like many, jurisdictions and counties, has some really unique businesses in there. So a lot of these things, does it mean once these businesses have these in place, they're ready to go? Because it sounds like, there's so many different stories out there, businesses that, I don't know, I can think of everything from Waterworld to drive-ins to restaurants to, that are all ready to get back. So I guess, what is your advice to them that are struggling and they're being contacted by the health department saying they're not okay to run? They're worried about their business. They don't know who to contact. I know my husband's received many calls. I can't imagine you haven't received. I receive them as a candidate. So what do you tell some of these businesses that see these packages and say, this is all well and good, but I could be up and running?
So one of the, I think there's different types of challenges that they have because they're all so different. Some of it is the challenge is just trying to interpret what the guidelines are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're through some of the more difficult. I think over a month ago, it was harder than it is today. Most folks, the default is the state default. We're safer at home rather than stay at home. I'm going to call that kind of your baseline. The CDP, the websites that you have at the state are pretty good. Tri-County Health business website, if I could show you that as well,
Sure.
is actually, they've made some good improvements, and let me show you that. So when it comes to interpreting or asking for some help of the guidance, you could go to Tri-County Health website, and they've got their entire business support team, as well as an actual like an email and a phone number for businesses to call specifically. And that is an improvement than just saying call the general line where you're competing with. But that's if you're having questions about like interpretations. What we're finding is that in addition to interpreting some of the rules and understanding where you sit, the question is what if we want to be able to show, let's say there's some sort of restriction, and it might be an outright restriction saying they can't operate at all, or there's some like capacity restriction. There are variance processes that they can apply for at the state. That means that they can apply to be kind of exempt from that particular restriction at the state level. And Tri-County Health, it will be able to identify how to do that if there's some specifics. And so you're finding that the most innovative companies that are wanting to get back into business are finding ways to show, look, we can do this with distancing. We could do this with sanitation, being sanitary. The hard part though, is that some businesses are saying, and it's still not enough. And some of them are still hurting. And that's why we're trying to find these other resources for them.
Well, I think it's interesting. I've had some conversations. Obviously, we're known as a water world. In Casa Bonita family, we have a bad reputation, which I'm fine with. I love both of those places. We always get passes. So before I read, I got an email from Waterworld because we had season passes. So they're like, hey, sorry, but your passes are good next year. But before I even saw the news stories, I had probably 5 text messages from friends like, what the hell? Because they know that's what we do. So I think it's an interesting balance for businesses like that. They've got to kind of make a call. Do we think we're going to be able to try to open in a month? I think it's such an unknown. Nobody knows what a month away is going to look like. We didn't know last, a month behind what it was going to look like. So I think it's, and to your point of trying to figure out how do you meet those guidelines. And I think about a place like Waterworld, trying to distance in a line, how do you do that? Their lines are set up to, pack people in a ride. I mean, that's how it is. So I think it'll be interesting to see, maybe hindsight's 2020, maybe they'll look back and say, oh, we wish we would have given it a month to wait. But I think it's really hard for these, depending on the size of business. But then some of these small businesses are kind of like, man, if we wait much longer, we're not gonna be here in a month. And I think that's the hard thing. And I think we all have a big heart for that. And I think everybody's trying to do their best they can as far as keeping people safe and trying to let business survive, because we really need both things to happen. So it's a difficult balance. So you had talked earlier, we were talking about maybe getting into the mask discussion. So I know this has been interesting. I was on the side of not a government, mandate or whatever you want to call it, order in Westminster, which ultimately Westminster did go with.
I would say, hold on, because I know how the mask discussion can get really wild and down the road. So before you do that, Mark Clark has been on here for a while and nobody has said hi to him.
Mark, hello.
I mean, we have people that at least we should acknowledge and say hello. And, he might be drinking a beer. We should ask him what it is. Parker Brown, AJ.
I mean, I don't know.
A lot of people to say hi. Maybe they'll have some questions as this comes up. So this would be a great time to put in some of those questions, and we'll have plenty of time that way to get to them.
Well, if we're going to be nice to Mark, we should go down the list real quick. I see former Mayor McNally. I see Peter Wall. Mayor Jan Coleman is on. I saw Commissioner Libby Szabo on. Representative Kraft Tharp is watching. Tim McCormick, Alberto. Councilor John Voles is on. Shannon Romero. AJ. I think you said hi to AJ. But Parker Brown, I don't know if you know Parker. Parker runs Carrabba's. Parker's a good guy. He also sits on our special permits and licensing board. A whole bunch of people. Wow, there's a lot more people on here than I realized. So
we're seeing how many names you can rattle off.
Well, Brian Head is the last one, and David Carpenter. I see them both on here.
So they have, you might be able to see better than I can, Dave. They have some comments. I'm curious if you can read them, if maybe that fits into the mask discussion at some point.
Well, I see that Dave Carpenter is asking about Tri-County Health, and how a snack bar to drive in is any different than a carry-out restaurant is his question. And I've seen a lot about this today, like because the drive-in movies are a big thing. So I don't know if you've seen. I know you know my family. We're North Denver Italians as well, and so my cousin runs Pietro's Pizza in Wheat Ridge, and he's done some cool things on Sunday nights where they're doing like a drive-in pizza night where you know until they pack their parking lot, and it's basically like a pizza and some salad and 2 pops for like $40, and you can go watch a movie at Pietro's, which is cool. And people are getting innovative with trying to survive as a business. So I've seen the drive-in a lot. Like there's a lot of stories nationally, like the drive-in's coming back because people can't go into movie theater, so they still want to go out. So but I've seen concerns from some of the movie theater owners that don't know if they can meet those guidelines and do business because like the bathrooms is a hard thing. And so I don't know if you have thoughts on it, but I've seen stuff, and I haven't done enough to dig in to speak intelligently, I don't think, on it. I understand their concerns, but I don't understand how the guidelines have been laid out either.
Yeah, so I think I was just talking to one of the drive-in operators earlier this week, and I think Tri-County Health is actually working with them now. And so, I mean, and then I got an email today saying from a different drive-in operator that they weren't working. So, we've got businesses across the state that are either doing things specifically on their own, or they're pulling together with some of the other the folks in their trade associations, or they're kind of creating their own coalitions, and they're putting together these really innovative plans and presenting them to the state and the regulators saying, hey, we understand the principles of what you're trying to accomplish. If we can show you we can meet those principles and those guidelines, dealing with safety. And let's not forget that everything that we're talking about should be focused around health and safety. And so as long as people can meet those and they can work with the regulators, it's my understanding there have been a lot of variances that the state can work through. I mean, even looking down at the mall down in Douglas County, but it just takes a little bit of time for people to be able to put together their plan. And at the end of the day, it is still about health and safety. And that's what we have to keep in mind. And it needs to be, I want to see those drive-ins come back, and I want to see it done in a safe way where I can bring my kids and even my, the grandparents.
Yeah.
And if we can get to that point, then I think you're going to start to see more things open up. That right now, the division out there about all masks or no masks or all this or that, we got to quit talking about COVID recovery, responsive recovery in terms of a switch. It's not all on or all off. What we need to do is change how we do business so we can be safer for everyone's sake. And you and I've talked about this before. Freedom comes with personal responsibility.
Absolutely.
And personal responsibility includes more than just being responsible for yourself. It's being responsible for the community and the people around you. And so if it means that I need to wear a mask, whether I want to wear one or not, I'm going to do it because I think that's the personal responsibility that I want to do when I go to Home Depot. And I want them to do it because I want the grandparents to be safe, and I want the kids to be safe, and those who are immunocompromised to be safe. And if it's something that I don't have to, but is that the hill I really want to die on? Is that really the issue I want to fight about, is whether I should or should not be able to wear a mask in some other private business? No. So that's my take on the mask thing, is that we're not requiring it either. We are requiring it in our businesses, but some of that's because we're putting on the employer hat and we want to support our employees, and they are scared.
Yeah. And I think, and I mean, you kind of hit really where I was on the whole issue. And I really actually was like, hey, we've been watching Tri-County Health, we've been watching Jefferson County Health, we've been watching the governor in the state, and they all said, strongly recommend. I was in favor with strongly recommend. I've been doing that for months. I mean, I've been wearing it myself when I go into businesses, being respectful of others people's, health and as well as feelings. I mean, some people it makes them feel, more comfortable, which I understand. And there's a lot about the science, one way or another. And some of it's like, let's just be decent to each other and stop getting so angry about it. Which I think, at some point we're going to have to do if we want to really start moving forward. And I think you stated it well. It's not, it's about being innovative. I actually had this discussion with my employer about the same thing. Like, how do we be innovative? Like, I'm curious to see like some of these things the governor's done, like drive up liquor, like to go or whatever you want to call it. Those are the kind of innovative things that I've seen where government's like, you know what, actually, let's get out of these businesses' way so that they can provide services. And I'm curious how much of that will stick. And I think you even said it, some of that stuff is probably here to stay because they're like, oh, this is, people are like, this is actually kind of nice. So it'll be interesting to see where to go. And I think we'll see more innovative out of the business community because of the situation, which I think is good. Anytime you could take a bad situation and, do something good with it is positive. I see another question on here that I want to let you address. So Brian had asked, under normal circumstances pre-COVID-19, how much interaction did the county commissioners have with Tri-County Health leadership and policy setting?
We appoint the Tri-County Health Board members that represent each county, whether it's Douglas, Arapahoe, or Adams, appoints folks to represent us at that Tri-County Health Board. And that's not that different compared to some. I mean, there's all sorts of boards and commissions that even you have at the city that sometimes make policy or decisions that not everything goes directly to the mayor and the city council at times. But the point I'm making is that's our interaction. We have a county commissioner that interacts with them, and then they come in and they do give presentations to justify budgets. They give presentations to talk about certain concerns, and we have some specific concerns in Adams County. Our health situations for public health are different in Adams County than they may be in Douglas County. And one example of that is air quality. With all the highways and the industrial uses that we have up here, we have significantly different air quality and different types of disease and other problems that we have here that they don't have in Douglas County. So Tri-County comes in and talks to us about what are some of the things that they're doing to try to address each of those counties' different things. So we do a lot of that. I think going back to the other piece though about, regardless of the requirement of mask or not, the other thing that we have to remember is all of us are getting our food and any products that we want right now. And I will say that the workers that are out there are really truly the heroes that we need to give more attention to. The fact that whether it's the person who's picking it or packing it or trucking it or serving it or selling it, those people want us to wear masks. They want us to be safe for their sake because they're touching so much. They're there every day. And I've talked to quite a few workers that just say they feel sad that these issues become debates, but they're saying, at least for our sake, if we feel more comfortable and we're out there on the front line, would you guys just do it? And the answer to me that I gave is sure. And and the next step is going to be to start to show these people more respect. Just say thank you to the folks that are working at King Soopers and Safeway, the folks that are driving the trucks and doing the warehouse, and eventually we're going to need to have some other conversations about not paying them only $10 an hour and those other issues.
I know for us, like you say, being grateful and stuff, like I've done more DoorDash than I ever have before. And I've also not strictly behaved the keto for 2 months. That's for sure. I've been good for the last 2 weeks. I'm trying to get back on board. But I've definitely been more generous of a tipper. I'm a good tipper anyway, I think. But like, it's like, they're running around, and like I've went to some of the businesses. And so like, I think like you're a DoorDash person, like if you realize like how inconvenient it is to go through some of these food lines because of the restrictions from the health department, like you go buy a dozen donuts, it's not like 5 minutes anymore. Like, or a Sunday morning at Lamar's where it's always not 5 minutes. Now it's, it's triple time. So these DoorDash folks that are going out and doing that, they're having to go back and stand in those lines consistently. So they're not just dealing with the risk that you don't want to deal with by, ordering it in. So I'd keep that. I keep it in mind. Vanessa and I do definitely with whenever we're ordering out in our tips, it's been a little more generous, I'd say, than in a typical day. But so those are all great points that you bring up. And I think it's, I obviously, again, like I'm not for government mandating that, but I also think that I understand everything you've said, and I don't disagree with, being a decent person. And I guess it's just for me, it's that force versus personal accountability. So I've said, I'm going to take that step and I'm going to do those things. But it's interesting what people hear when you get in those conversations, like I had posted, how that conversation went in city council, and it was straight to somebody yelling at me saying, how dare you encourage people not to wear masks? And I'm like, it's not at all what I said. I said quite the opposite. Like, do wear them. Like, be respectful of people, be respectful of the business's rights to ask you to wear them. Because we did see before even the mandate, like Costco is requiring them, Home Depot is requiring them, and those businesses absolutely have a right. That's their business, that's their property. So it's an interesting thing, but I think you put it very eloquently. It's really about trying to take care of each other. And if, but at the second hand of that too, that I would remind people, there are people who legitimately can't wear them. And I think that that's one of the concerns that I have, whether it be mental health or, they have breathing problems where it's unhealthy for them to wear one, which is really kind of a double-edged sword too. Like if you're somebody who already has a breathing problem, and you can't wear the mask, I mean, that's even, more dangerous for them. But I would just say, point being is, you see that person out without a mask, at least try to give them the benefit of a doubt. Maybe they're not just trying to be a jerk like you think they are, and that's all too often what I hear people getting accused of. And sometimes maybe they are, because it's American. You get to be a jerk if you want to be. So
if I want to wear no shirt, no shoes, like just to prove that I don't want to wear a shirt and shoes, then I guess you're going to get into those little spats. But really, right now it's time for us to kind of pull together, and there are going to be some sacrifices we all have to make. Absolutely, what you're talking about. If there's somebody who needs an accommodation, then the businesses should try to accommodate or find a way to help those folks out. But that's we're getting there, and it's just like I said, personal freedoms also require us to implement or to exercise personal responsibility for ourselves and the people around us. And that's where, if everyone did that, you wouldn't have people voting to mandate certain things, because it wouldn't be necessary. Unfortunately, in some areas, people feel like it is necessary. You guys are laughing. What do we have here? Let me log in.
Brian Head, he says he asked if we can require me to wear a mask permanently. Hashtag face for radio. Not nice, Brian.
That's awesome.
Okay,
I just logged in. Now I see what you guys are seeing.
Friends for a reason.
That's always bad when somebody comments something like that and I start laughing and you're talking about something important. It makes me look bad. Like, and I think people like Brian Head do that on purpose, and it's not nice. It's funny, but
I just got on. Now I see what you're saying. Now there's Alberto talking smack about CSU.
Well, okay, we can put this all to rest, and I can let you guys play some trivia, and then you can really come out with a victor. And I think Dave had something he was doing with his policy in Pilsner, that he was actually putting something on the line if he had lost, like a wager of some kind.
It wasn't actually a wager. And you know what? We forgot to do this with Laura Carno, that we
a donation.
We said from now on that we're going to do so this is trivia side. We'll do trivia and call it a night. But as our guest, if you have a charity that you like, we give you this opportunity for you to share that with anybody who listens to this now or later, and we'll make a donation as well this week to whatever charity that you want.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you.
So
now you're asking which one?
Yeah. So you got to pick a charity.
I'm going to say Adams County Foundation.
Perfect. We can do that.
Yeah, that's helping pay for our loans, grants, all sorts of great things.
do you want to toss that that website up in the comments, so then if others feel so inclined, they can check it out?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So here we have, let's see, I got to make sure I've got this in the right mode. I don't do presentations like you guys do, so I don't think it's right, but we're going to go with it. All right. So, oh, nope, it's not right. Okay. Question 1 of 6. Steve, see, I told you I got your back from the beginning. There's a high school located along Pomona Drive in Arvada. Name their mascot.
Well, the Panthers, of course.
See, I think it's that my screen is showing. See, Dave couldn't even.
I might have gotten that one anyway.
So here we go.
I knew what it was, but like I might have to go all Alberto on you about that, because I went to Stanley Lake and we don't like the Panthers. I think it's mostly because they're better at sports than us. We made up a lot of other things that I'm not going to share on here because it's not nice, but. And it was always like, if you actually talk to somebody from Pomona, though, they're like, Stanley Lake, who cares about Stanley Lake? Like, not nice.
I've lost on my screen. Hold on one sec. We'll get back there. So the whole reason I had picked that was I too went to Pomona. It was fun. It was okay. Hold on. I'm going to get back to my screen. This is not where I've had such technical issues here before.
okay.
All right.
We're both alum of Pomona High School.
See, you Pomona guys can't run PowerPoint. I don't know.
All right.
All right. Here we go. Back to Pomona. All right. Let me see where the screen is at now. Here we go. Okay, so question 2 of 6. We're on a roll. I should have given you guys a warm-up question. Is this screen sharing again, or is it?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but it's not in my presentation mode. See, this is, I'm out of school for just 2 weeks, and see what happens?
There
2
you go.
weeks. All right, we have to get back to the right slide. All right. Sorry for the delay, folks. Thanks for sticking with me. How many cities, Steve, this is all you. How many cities or towns are in Adams County?
Well, 10.
10. Dave?
Yeah,
Are
and
you
sometimes that can be tricky because you have some folks try to say something like, well, is Strasburg considered a town? And at one time, yes, but now it's not. Then you got Bennett. And then some people try to bring in, well, what about some of these old neighborhoods that used to be towns? Like, you know,
Oh, he's getting really technical. Well,
Yeah.
we're going to go with
I
active.gov says 10.
You didn't even let me answer. I was going to say there's only one that matters, so I don't really care. So, yeah, there you go.
Well, so 10, 10. And Bennett is the only one I saw that's actually the town. Is that?
yeah, they're a town. And, but like you had a lot of the neighborhoods and areas that at one time, you know, really thought of them, you know, like I live in Welby and some people say, oh, is that a town or a city? And we say, not yet, just joking around. But yeah, folks like Henderson and you had Derby and you had, if you look on the old maps, some of these actually were, and some of them are still on maps. Even if
I recall Henderson because my dad for the longest time worked at Dalwell, which was at 104th and 85. And that was technically Henderson. So I was really lost when all of a sudden it became Reunion and Commerce City and things just changed. I should be okay with that.
Which part of Arvada is in Adams County? Not much, right?
The side off of Sheridan. And
64th and Sheridan. It's the old dollar theaters.
Ah,
oh yeah, 64th. Just a small
the Elvis Theater, right?
Now it's Elvis.
We like to use this as a learning experience for Dave as well. So it's not just trivia. We can all learn.
I saw All Dogs Go to Heaven in that theater with my mom when I was a little kid.
No, he's gonna get sad. We'll move on. All right, out of all those cities, which is the largest by population? Thornton. So interesting. There's a little bit of dispute, I would think. So according, it's not really clear. Excuse me, on adco.gov or adcogov.org, it would say Aurora, but then Wikipedia, who is obviously the expert in all things, says it's Thornton. So Steve, why would you think there's discrepancy? Is it because Aurora only is a sliver in Adams County?
So I think that's the issue, is that you've got Aurora, I think, is actually a bigger city, but when you look at the size within the county, that could be a tricky one too. That's right. And the same with, I mean, even adding Westminster. I mean, you've got Westminster, you've got Aurora.
But Thornton is all dedicated within Adams County boundaries.
Yeah,
so
it's our biggest city.
All right. We'll give them that one. Thornton's not too bad. Some of us grew up in Westminster and we say Thornton in a less professional way. So Thornton, come on.
Yeah, Thornton, Brighton.
All right. Name the one place in Adams County that you can visit a Lost River of the Pharaohs, a water coaster, and eat a churro.
Waterworld.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Can we just have a moment of silence for Waterworld?
I'm more sad, to be honest with you, I'm more sad about not my kids being able to go there, but all the kids who work there every year.
Yeah.
That was a comment actually in this section about that's a lot of summer jobs that are lost. That's and it's just one of those very unique type businesses, just like the drive-in. Waterworld is an extremely unique business that how do you possibly have a plan? Hindsight's 2020. You can sit here and say, oh, well, I would have done this, but yeah.
I don't even know how you would hire that many teenagers remotely. That's difficult.
Think of all those teenagers who are home for the summer now
think about all the parents who now can't send their kids off to work at Waterworld all summer long.
Yeah. Or
think about them.
For any of them. You got,
all right. 5 of 6. Gentlemen, you are almost there. Name or summarize, and you're a prosecutor, Dave, you're a big Second Amendment guy. Name or summarize the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution.
I get to carry a gun, period. So it's up for debate.
I try to level the playing field here.
Don't worry though, I have a CCW. I'm all legal.
Maybe
I
I
mean,
got your back.
we
You
always
got
just-
one question in there. I knew you'd at least get that one.
Yeah.
All right, 6 of 6. I think you both are going to have a really good shot with this one. What Italian deli in Southwest Adams County makes the best cannoli? Period.
I'll let you have this one. I mean, we both know.
Yeah. Valenti. Dino.
Yeah.
Dino makes it the best.
It's Valenti's.
How are
That
you?
is the Italian sausage cannoli, though my favorite is the ham and pepperoni. But
Yeah.
So everybody thinks Dino's my cousin. Dino is not my cousin. His mom and my aunt were like very, very good friends. But he is actually related to you, correct? You guys are actually cousins.
He's actually related to my wife.
Okay.
So my wife are part of these Adams County Italians. I'm part of the North Denver Italians. And so
oh, see.
I could not date an Italian whose family's from North Denver. It might have been a cousin. So I had to find an Italian outside of North Denver. And
And that, folks,
That's-
is another podcast.
That's the truth.
All
Like,
right. So according to my skills, this is my extremely fancy record keeping skills. It looks like Steve has won this round, Dave. I'm really
Dave
sorry.
could have gotten all the same. I think we might have been able to get all of them.
as long as I don't have to do the same bet he does with Alberto. Him and Alberto make bets about CU and CSU where one of them has to wear a sandwich board or the other one's candidates. And that's easy if you're both on the same party line. That would be much more difficult for me and you, I think. So at least we don't.
We have fun with it though.
You guys crack me up with that. Like, oh, who's going to wear the sandwich board this year?
Yeah.
That's good
We've
stuff.
had some fun with it.
Well-
And, it's I've had all sorts of different kind of bets on that CU CSU game, and over history we have not come out as well, but that's okay. We'll come back.
We'll learn, right?
Yeah, we'll be back.
Learning experience.
Yeah, you
Well,
guys are great.
We super appreciate you being on. So like you like to give the guests one last word and then Vanessa, and then we'll call it a good evening.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you guys letting me come and chat, and we talked about a lot of important things. I think the issues that we're seeing right now is we got to not let the divisions of ideology split everyone on, especially when it comes to important things like COVID response, recovery, and how we're going to move forward. It's a real divisive time right now. And it's really frustrating, but I can tell you now, I've always been able to work with you, Dave, on all sorts of things. And I know, Vanessa, you're going to have a good, clean election with my friend Lindsay Doherty. And that's what I want to see is good people like you know, and Lindsay being able to do things, because it's going to be respectful, and people want to see us have good discussions on policies and be able to do this how we did it tonight. And I appreciate it. And I think if we just keep reminding ourselves when it comes down to our community, we just got those potholes, the crimes, the things that matter the most when it comes to local government and community things are those are where we need to come together and not let us divide. So whether we're talking masks or anything else, I appreciate the ability to sit and chat about things. And you know, in this country, I think we're a lot closer than we sometimes acknowledge.
Yeah, agreed.
So thank you both.
Oh,
And
you're a good sport. Thanks for playing trivia. I always have a lot of fun with it. So I'll get better at technology. Thankfully, that's not my degree path. So
you guys are great. Thank you.
Take care of you and your family. Stay healthy, and thanks for all that you do with Adams County.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then just so everybody knows, next Tuesday, we're going to have Dr. Michelle Haney, who's the president of Red Rocks, which if you didn't know, I actually teach part-time at Red Rocks. So she's kind of my boss, even when she was a co-counsel person, because she did serve with Westminster for a while. So hopefully people tune in for that. And otherwise, everybody have a good night.
Thank you.